Hello and welcome back to the IO Sportscast. Once again, my name is Izaak and I have Ollie with me. Say hello.
Hi guys.
Today we're going to be covering the topic of safety cars in Formula One. While there are safety cars in other motorsports, I think we'll agree that Formula One is the one that we know the most about.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
This is going to go in multiple different directions because there's like the history of how the whole idea of a safety car came about and how Formula One started using it, and then there's how it's used today with like the virtual safety car. I'd
And
like
our
to,
opinions on it as well.
yeah, I'd like to try and cover quite a range of the two because obviously we're fairly young. We weren't around when Formula One brought in the safety car, but we're
No.
very much aware of how it's been used more recently. So when it first came in was actually back in the 70s. There was I think it's the Canadian Grand Prix. It used a yellow Porsche safety car, but it didn't start well. It's this 1973 Canadian Grand Prix, and there was a load of different like really bad weather conditions there, and it took them like multiple hours after the race to try and figure out who'd won because the safety car driver picked up the wrong like
Oh,
the wrong car.
Oh, no way.
And half of the cars were like a lap down because of it.
Oh no.
So that's
That's bad.
one of the things of having a safety car is if you pick up the wrong driver as the leader, it throws everything into disarray. I mean, having a safety car pick up the leader, we've seen recently, like it still takes a good few laps to actually get everyone bunched up together, the lapped
Yeah.
cars to pass through and well, not even be caught up anymore. They've changed the rules. Was it 2015 somewhere around there when they changed the rules so that lapped cars only need to be about halfway around the track. Um, it just takes
Yeah.
so long. I understand why that would happen, but it does feel a bit like there's a middle ground that needs to be found.
Yeah. So I'm just on the internet now, and I've got a list of all the safety cars I've had throughout the years
Yeah,
in Formula One.
I've pulled a little list as well. Yeah,
So obviously, as you said, 1973, they had a Porsche 914 that was used in Canada, and then 74, 75, there was no safety cars used. 76, it was a 911, and that was used at Monaco. 77 to 80, no safety cars used, which is surprising. 81 to 83 was a Lamborghini, all at Monaco. I'm starting to see a pattern with all these safety cars. The first lot were used at Monaco. Then after that, 84 and 92, apparently there was no safety car used, which is a long time without a safety car, to be honest.
well, it was only really
I don't know how
properly
accurate this website is.
it was only really properly brought in '93, wasn't it? It was just like one-offs before that.
From from 96, midway through 96, it's been what it is now, the Mercedes.
Yeah, Mercedes all the way. Yeah,
Yeah, until this year when we've got obviously Mercedes and Aston Martin. So
yeah, and it's been interesting. I've got a list of different times that each car got deployed and how many laps they covered. And between 2010 and 2014, when it was the SLS AMG, it got deployed 68 times in 5 seasons. That's
wow,
yes, 13 and a bit times a season. That
for
feels
4 years.
a little bit
Yeah, but some of the
high.
races it'll mark about more than once, won't it?
Yeah, agreed. But
Like at Monaco or something like that.
yeah, but in the 3 years after that, 2015 to 2017, it got deployed 37 times. It feels like something happened at the start of the 2010s that caused a lot of safety cars. So Mercedes have been the sort of the lead of the safety car world in Formula One at least. Aston Martin have got the new Vantage out this year, and I still don't know how that's going to work in terms of which ones are going to get deployed where, or if they just have both safety cars at every track and they'll just take turns.
I'm going to see if I can find out how it'll work. But I think they might alternate it, but we don't know. Do you prefer the Aston or the Mercedes?
I do really like the look of that Aston Martin. To be fair, the
I think Bernd Maylander's driving both still, isn't he? Still the
yeah, the red Mercedes looks nice, but it seems weird seeing them in red. I'm just looking at pictures of them now, and like that Aston Martin Vantage looks so good.
Let's go on the official F1 website.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now. It says they're going to share safety car appearances. Don't know whether that means it's going to be split race to race, week to week, but
It'd be nice if it was, and then obviously we'd be able to see both. They do like what 12 races each. Want to do 12? Want to do
11?
11?
Yeah, I mean the Aston does look sleek.
I'd love to drive it. I bet it's well cool with his safety. Bernd Maylander's probably got the best job in Formula One, apart from other than the drivers, obviously. Because he's like, yeah, you can't go past me, otherwise you get a penalty. And he's just there like, yeah, I'm in the lead now, so can't go past me. But I bet it is cool just to drive that every now and then.
I mean, it's a job that you both want and don't want. You don't want to be used, but at the same time, knowing
when you are used, you're like,
yeah, knowing that you're going to drive out of the pits, and
in a fast car as well.
Yeah, I guess in the moment, he's probably very much like, let's hope everybody's okay. Which, thankfully, for the vast majority of safety car deployments, it's nothing serious. It's just a bit of debris or, a car that's pulled over in an awkward position. I'm trying to think back to like major incidents where.
Last year, Bahrain.
Yeah, Bahrain was one. Well, obviously,
crashed.
That was like a very very serious accident, and it's still astonishing how he's managed to walk away from that.
To be fair, I didn't think he was good. I didn't think he'd get out as quick as he did, but it just shows, doesn't it?
Yeah. Obviously that went from safety car to red flag in a split second. It was.
Yeah, exactly.
It's interesting if you listen back to the onboards of all the drivers just after the accident happened, and half of them are saying safety car, the other half are saying red flag, and we've not heard the safety car call because that's how fast it happened.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Which was the correct call. But obviously, if you're going out as a safety car and you know that there's a potential someone's been hurt, that's obviously it's probably not a very nice feeling. But as you say, off track, when he's thinking about driving it, he's probably thinking this is a really cool job, and he's led an awful lot of laps. It'd be nice to know.
He's been safety car driver since 2000.
Yeah, so he's had a similar sort of career to Kimi Räikkönen and Alonso.
Very much.
It'd be nice to know how many laps he's actually led. Obviously, he's not led the race per se, but you know what I mean.
No, but how many laps he's driven?
Yeah. And
I reckon it's a few thousand. It's easily a few thousand.
Well, I mean, I don't know about that. I'm trying to do some very quick maths based on what numbers I managed to pull. And it's definitely in the several hundreds. I don't know if it's quite to the thousands, but it will be quite a lot. Obviously now his job more recently has been almost halved because VSC has become a thing. So the way that the safety car works, we'll go into a bit of detail for people who are slightly newer to Formula One. Is that whenever there's a serious accident or weather conditions or some situation where the FIA stewards deem it unsafe to be racing at full speed, they have an option to deploy the full safety car or the virtual safety car. We'll start with the virtual safety car because it's a little bit easier to understand. It got brought in 2015 and was thought about after Jules Bianchi's accident, and the cars all have to slow down at the point that the virtual safety car is enacted. There's no actual car on track. It's just all the drivers need to slow down.
A message that pops up with it on the dashboard.
They have little I think it's a little icon that they've got and some lights that they can see, and they've got to keep themselves below a certain lap time.
40%.
Is it 40%? I was going to say, is it 35 or 40%, something like that? Yeah.
40. 40%. Yeah. They've all got to stick to the same speed as well.
Yeah, but
So all the cars go around at the same speed.
Yeah, what that does is, it immediately brings down the danger level. The cars are still going round on track, so there's always going to be danger when you've got a car on track, regardless of how many other cars. But by bringing everybody down, you get the, having to do reflexes at 200 miles an hour versus having to do reflexes at 120.
It's a lot.
It's
easier for them, isn't it?
A massive chunk slower. It also means that when racing does begin again, the cars are roughly in the same sort of positions they were when it was paused. Maybe not necessarily in the exact positions they were on track, but in terms of gaps between drivers.
Yeah.
It's like a temporary slowing down of the race rather than an actual event that changes the race. With the full Formula 1 safety car, you have the safety car itself be deployed. Bernd Mayländer and his co-pilot will go out and will leave the pits and try and pick up the leader of the race. And by pick up, we mean wait until drivers have gone past, until the leader's just behind them, and then drive in front. And at that point, the queue gets formed, and all the pack gets bunched up. Obviously, people get overtaken, people get lapped, so the order that they're behind the safety car in the queue can be a little bit incorrect versus the race positions. So the lapped cars get a chance to unlap themselves, which originally would be to unlap themselves, go all the way around the track, and then rejoin at the back of the queue.
Yeah.
But that takes like a good few laps because you're still going reasonably quick.
Plus, if it's a long track like a Spa or something like that, it's going to take a lot longer, isn't it?
Yeah. It's going to take 3 or 4 laps to get you close to the back of the queue again. Normally, you only get the chance to unlap yourself once the danger's gone, and it's more about restarting the race. So at that point, those unlapped cars can go near enough full speed to get around the track. But
once they've been let through by the safety car,
but the guys in the pack are still not going like 0 miles. They're still moving around the track fairly quickly because they've got to drive fast enough that their engine doesn't stall or overheat, that the gearbox doesn't get used up, and the tyres are kept in the window so that they can, 1, jump straight back into racing, and 2, they've got the grip there should anything further happen.
Exactly.
We've seen accidents behind the safety car multiple times, so it's not. It doesn't necessarily make
Mugello
it
last
easy.
year.
Yeah, with
Mugello last year. That was a safety car restart, but it literally just got into the pits.
Yeah,
and then there was a massive pile up.
But that was a very strange incident. When you're restarting for the race, the leader gets control once the safety car's gone past the safety car line and is heading into the pits. The leader of the race gets control of the restart, and they can wait right up until the safety car line, at which point drivers can then overtake the leader. But at the same time, as soon as
across that line,
as soon as it crosses that line,
game,
it's back to green flag racing.
Yeah.
Go for it. But until that point, the leader is the safety car effectively, and if they want, they could near enough just stop on track. That wouldn't be a good idea for several reasons, but in theory they could. The issue with Mugello was that I think it was just the track layout and trying to wait to the last moment to put your foot down to get away. And it just caused this. What's it called?
Constantina.
Yes, a Constantina effect.
Constantina effect.
And it went.
That's it.
It went backwards through the mid pack. And then it just all went downhill from there because you had people coming out of the last corner accelerating because they're going onto the straight, and then people suddenly just in front of them slamming on the brakes because they've not hit the safety car line and they can't overtake until they do that, which is caused by the leaders doing that because they want to get past
Yeah, exactly.
the guy in front.
Yeah, exactly.
So that led to a nasty accident. That was really bad. And there is that thing that safety cars breed safety cars. That's said multiple times. Whenever there's a safety car that comes out, that line inevitably comes up. And there is a little bit of a... Actually, I don't think we've seen virtual safety cars doing that because there isn't that packing up effect.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
But I think there is a fine line between calling a virtual safety car and calling a safety car just from a safety aspect. But then there's also the racing and the fans aspect of it. With a full safety car, you have the pack being brought together, so you have your leaders that were potentially 15-20 seconds up the road suddenly having their lead annihilated, and you have lapped cars that are now halfway around the track who haven't actually gained a lap back. So if you're just under a lap behind, you can catch up and you gain time. If you are a lap behind, you don't actually gain all the time back. And even if people are saying, why don't you just drop the lap cars back to the grid, back to the back of the grid, without them doing that extra lap? And while that would work, and you could technically then just ignore the laps that they've not done, I don't see how that's really that fair, because one, they've now got an extra lap or 2 laps or however far back they were. They've got so much extra fuel on board that they're not going to be as quick, or that they could turn their engine up and use as an advantage. I don't feel like there's a good outcome there.
Nah, it's better to get everyone on like either the same lap or stuff like that, or like halfway round onto the lead lap, so that then it's fair racing again, isn't it?
It is fair racing, yeah, but you are left with the time taken for that. You then lose 4 or 5 laps trying to shuffle everyone around correctly.
Yeah, that's true.
The other side to that is we potentially get to see a whole nother race. If Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen are 20 seconds up the road, we suddenly get a fight again between those guys and 3rd, 4th, 5th place. There's a whole different strategy game that it comes to pit stopping for new tyres, and obviously you lose less time.
Yeah, because you don't really lose when you pit into a safety car, you don't really lose time, do you? Because you're going that slow, so you can go in and then come out and you're still be in the same position as you were.
Assuming that you're the only one. If you're the only one to pit, you don't technically lose that much time. However, once the pack has bunched up, you would lose quite a lot for track position. Yeah. But yeah, if initially a safety guy gets called and you jump in the pits and no one else does, you've got a pit there that is, the cars are going 40% slower, so your pit stop is actually so much more efficient. It's much
short, yeah.
Compared to a full racing speed pit stop. And obviously, once you've pulled into the pits, you can put your foot down to the pit line, because that's not part of the racing track. So the second you pull, if you got somewhere like Britain where there is a bit of a lead into the pits, you can actually gain quite a bit of time.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then you get to the line stop, and then as soon as you cross the exit, you can put your foot down again.
Yeah.
Do you think the safety car drives too slow sometimes?
Good question. I feel like there's been quite a lot of drivers complaining recently that is the case.
Especially Lewis Hamilton.
Yeah, but even like Max Verstappen and Sebastian Vettel were doing it. Vettel's incident with Hamilton in Baku, they were both complaining that they were driving too slow. Obviously, Sebastian was also saying that Lewis was, brake checking him as well. I don't think that would have been the case. This is a couple of years ago now, so I don't remember all the details. But I'm sure Lewis was just putting his foot down to warm his tyres up, and then slowing down to keep under the delta. I don't think it was as extreme as Sebastian was pointing it out to be. And I don't remember ever thinking Lewis is being, because you're not allowed to speed up, slow down, speed up, slow down.
Yeah, no.
I don't think he was doing it that aggressively. So I don't remember that being an issue, but there are definitely times where drivers have complained and said the car's going too slow, because they've got to keep their tyres up to temperature to keep grip. And while the safety car might be out there for the safety of the drivers to bring things back out of the dangerous zone, if you've got
allow the marshals to clear the whatever it is that's on track.
Yeah, but if you've got the safety car driving too slow and the drivers can't keep their tyres up to temperature and they've got no grip, that's arguably just as dangerous, if not more dangerous, than what the original incident was.
We've seen many times where they've spun on the safety car as well.
There have been a lot of times,
The tyres aren't warmed and they're not up to temps because they're going too slow.
Well, normally if it's because of the safety car, if they spun under the safety car, it's normally when we're getting back up to pace and they're starting to try and warm the tyres up. And they put the foot, like George Russell. Sorry, George.
And Roman Grosjean a few years ago in
with Ericsson. Yeah, I don't think that there's much that Formula One can really do at the minute. Between the virtual safety car and the full safety car, they've got different options for different times where it's necessary, and I think they've got roughly the same attitude to using them, as they're not trying to push one or the other. I think they understand the pros and cons of each, and they're going for it. And fair play and well done for all the if you look back to the 70s, before the safety cars actually came in, like, safety was not really thought about, and Jackie Stewart kicked off quite a lot of thinking about safety and precautions for drivers.
You never really see the medical car, do you, come out when the safety car comes out? Do they only come out if it's like a big accident?
So the medical car, I think, can be called by the safety car. If there's a massive accident that's over 18G, then the medical car turns up regardless. Even if the driver's out of the car, sat on the wall, laughing and joking.
They check them all up, don't they?
Yeah, and
because obviously, like, the first race just gone, the medical car didn't come out, did it? Because I don't think it needed to.
I don't remember seeing it. No.
But then obviously at the start of the race, it's always at the back. I think it follows them round for the first lap, doesn't it, and then goes into the pits.
I don't know how far it actually goes round, or if there are little shortcuts it can take down the marshal posts. Some tracks will have little cut-ins that they can use.
Yeah.
I don't know whether they do or whether it does a full lap, but I feel like having it out for a full lap is a little bit, potentially actually quite a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, I know, but still, if it's you've got that argument, though, haven't you? If it stays up for the first lap, then if all happens like it did with Grosjean, then it could get there quicker. If it happens on the first lap.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I reckon it only comes out if there's a proper big accident, like you said. If it's over like 18 Gs, then they'll be like, because they have sensors all over, don't they? In the cars and in the gloves as well. Now
there's
they've got
so much data that goes through. On YouTube occasionally recommends old Formula One races, and yesterday it recommended to me. I can't remember what year it's 2016, I think, the Australian Grand Prix, where Alonso and Gutierrez had their massive accident.
Yeah.
And it's crazy just how, like, you look at that car afterwards, and it'd been like properly crumpled and was like half the size.
And it was upside down against the wall, so he didn't have that much of a gap to crawl out of, did he, as well?
Yeah, and he got out and looked a little bit shaken.
He was alright.
Yeah, but there was like a little interview thing with him, and he was saying that he knew his mum was watching, so he was like, "Don't get assisted. Do this yourself, otherwise she's going to be worried."
Yeah, 100%. I reckon if that would have been like 10, 20 years before, it wouldn't have got out of that. It'd have been a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah, I mean, safety has progressed in Formula One like really well. It's really not that long ago. It's 27 years ago with Ratzenberger and Senna, and
94, wasn't it?
yeah, and racing at that time, there was still you knew you were putting your life on the line.
Yeah.
Whereas now you know it's a possibility, but with the amount of things that are going on, you know there's a fairly strong chance you will be able to walk away from very big accidents. Now, obviously, that doesn't stop. It doesn't stop there being that danger there. Accidents like Massa's accident with the spring in Hungary in 2009, like
Kubica's in Canada in 07.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
just lost it, hit the back of another car that had been stranded.
And things like Sainz, was it Sainz in 2015 where his front wing came off and wedged his front tyres up, so he was just freewheeling
In Russia when he went hit the wall at like 50G.
Yeah. So these random things can happen out of nowhere, and while like the safety's been brought in, a safety car's been brought in, which has helped. The halo's been brought in, which has helped. There's always going to be that danger.
People were sceptical about that, weren't they, and stuff like that. But there's been a few times, not just in Formula 1, but in Formula 2 and Formula 3, where when it first came in, especially in the junior formulas where they'd crash and the car would bounce off the halo, and you were like, yeah, that's just saved their life. So if that wasn't there, they'd be killed.
Oh, absolutely. There's a lot of speculation. I really didn't like the look of it, and I'm still not 100% on it. But that was
But it's done its job, hasn't it?
Oh, agreed. And from a safety aspect, I was always behind it. It was just, how do we make this work as aesthetically as we can?
Yeah.
I was a little bit unsure about whether the driver's vision would be impaired because of the central column of it, but immediately the drivers were like, "No, we've got used to it," which I guess is.
They don't really look at the corners, don't they, when they're driving, and they look so far ahead that they won't even realise that it's there.
Yeah, and they were saying it's perfectly fine for them to drive with, so that's not an issue. But I do wonder what it would have been like had we had the Red Bull Aero screen. But that did have some problems.
I don't think that'd be really strong, personally.
No, well, that's what the tests found, that it wasn't as strong, or it had a tendency to break. And while it would have deflected, you're then dealing with shrapnel and stuff. And so overall, the Halo was the right way to go, and it's definitely on multiple occasions proved its point of.
Not just that, but like last year when Grosjean crashed at Bahrain, obviously the Halo went in first, didn't it? If that hadn't been there, he'd have been 100% been dead.
That would have been much worse,
It would have hit the barrier. Yeah. But like the Halo split the barrier, didn't it? So.
Yeah, and there's been multiple times where cars have gone on top of one another. I'm thinking like I don't know who it was. Was it Alonso over Charles Leclerc at Spa?
Yeah, in Spa, 2018. First year it came in.
Yeah, as I said, I think that was the first time we were like, okay, Halo's passed the test. It's done its job. And then since then it's done wonders. But obviously, motorsport is still extremely dangerous, and even with Halos, serious accidents do still happen.
Yeah, you're gonna get that in any form of motorsport, though.
Yeah. It's not a inherently safe sport. Those sort of speeds, it doesn't matter what you're driving. It's if you have an accident, it's going to be bad.
You have an accident, yeah. It's gonna hurt.
But like you say, compared to how it was in the 70s versus how it is now, like 50 years on, and we're actually like reasonably safe now.
There's still improvements that could be made and stuff, but it's never going to be perfect, is it?
No, it's never going to be a perfect sport, but I think we're getting close enough to it being like fairly like a regular like level of safety, so that when things go wrong, we're not talking about is that guy dead?
Fatalities.
Yeah.
We're
saying, okay, is
He's
that guy injured?
Himself, but
is he injured?
Yeah.
And the fact that we're even close to going into that conversation is fantastic. But, well, let's loop back around. Let's loop back around to the main question of safety cars, and we'll end with this. That is full safety car, virtual safety car. Do you keep both? Do you keep only one? What would you do?
I'm not a fan of the virtual safety car because sometimes it's like on for like it's on for like 10 seconds and it goes off again. But I'd keep them both. I think you need them. You definitely 100% you need the safety car because there's stuff that the safety car can sort out that the VSC can't sort out. And plus, it's a slower speed, so therefore it's got the marshals and stuff. Have got if there's a full safety car, I say they're going slower, so the marshals have got more time to clear the obstruction or get the cars out of the way. Whereas if it's a VSC, the speeds are slower, but they're not as slow, and it'll take probably take a bit longer for them to move the obstruction out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in certain circumstances, I think you need both.
Okay, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Let's say we get rid of the safety car, full safety car, and we have virtual safety car when it's like more than a yellow flag. And then if it goes worse than that, where you would normally call a full safety car, we just red flag the race, the cars come back slowly to the pits, and then you can just push them to the grid like you do at the start of a race, and you'd be able to order them in race order, and you just go for a standing start again.
Ooh, that's interesting.
That brings up a couple of other issues because of the thing like.
Yeah, but what about if it's like torrential downpour? 'Cause sometimes you start a race behind the safety car. How are you gonna?
Well, arguably the safety car shouldn't be out in a normal race. It shouldn't be out on the grid. So if you're having to start the race behind the safety car, there's got to be a question about whether it's safe to race anyway.
Yeah.
And if that is the case, why are we going to send the cars out if we know full well they can't race properly?
That is true.
I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm just trying to throw a few things out.
It's good. Debate is good.
Well, I think for my record, I would keep things as they are. I think, as you said, the stewards sometimes can be a little bit trigger happy with the VSC. Although recently that does seem to have started to sort itself out. But there was still trying to think when it was. It was one of the races last year where a couple of cars came in, had their pits under the VSC, and literally as they were leaving their pit box, it went off again. And you're like, that was almost perfectly timed for those drivers.
Yeah, exactly. But then if you're at the other side of the track, you're like, oh, nothing I can do.
Yeah, maybe that's just part of sport. You know, you have these random bits of luck going one way or the other. But I do agree that sometimes they're a little bit trigger happy with the virtual safety car. And I think as time goes on, because it's like you say, it's only been around a few years, and only for a couple of years, properly being used.
6 years this year, isn't it?
Yeah.
5 or 6 years. So there's obviously it's improving all the time. There'll be a point where it won't be perfect because obviously nothing's perfect, but there'll be a point where it won't be as bad as it is, if you know what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we keep it as it is, and we just keep an eye on when they're pulling the virtual safety car out. Right. Well, if that is everything, I don't think I've got anything else.
So.
I don't think I've got anything else to say.
No, I've not. No, me neither.
Great. Well, in this case, I'd like to say thank you all for listening. Make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube and hit the notification icon so you know when the next episode of these is coming out. If you're on Spotify or your other favourite podcast listening services, hit the follow button. And make sure you like our socials at IO Sportscast on Instagram and Twitter. Great. Well, it has been a pleasure, Ollie.
Yep.
And I'll see you next time.